Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Stormworks. Just sort of practicing my COPA regulation friendly stuff. This video is not made for children. Not intended for children. Alright, with that stuff out of the way, let's continue with designing for Stormworks. Because I was working on what I considered the skate, the sea skate. Because it's designed as a normal ship, well, ish. And it's also going to be capable of pushing a couple of hydrofoils down into the water to accelerate the ship. Initially, I was using the track bases. These ones, the linear track base and the linear track extension. And that worked, mostly, but they were really sizable. I have done a mission and I have now unlocked the compact linear track base, which is 1/3 of the amount of blocks that these things actually take up. So I'm going to be using these instead, and this should make the ship quite a bit sleeker. Now once again, start up right about here. And set the track base up over here in a downward orientation. Oh crap, I need to turn on mirror mode. Let's try that again. So linear track base up here in a downward orientation. And then a couple of track bases over here. Make sure the ship is in fact watertight. Sometimes these track bases have a bit of a weird water mechanic. But what I can do now is attach this fin directly over here. Which means that they're not going to be as big as they once were. And for additional hydro capability, I'm going to be making it in a sort of, maybe a double fin, if you want to call it that. Alright, same thing here. A couple of track bases. And fin rudders. So back again to the track base. Starting with the linear track base extension. Downward orientation. Track base extensions. Not like that. Like this. And close up the rest of the ship. As you can see, I've already put up a couple of control panels over here to see how well the ship's going to perform. I continued some testing off screen just to see what the ship does and how well it actually does it. And so far it does seem to work. It does seem to work. Not quite as well as I hoped it would. But we're getting somewhere. Which is a start. Also put this side up here like that. Yep, that should do it. Okay, make sure that these things go deep enough into the water. That's going to be a bit of a challenge, because they might not really reach as low as I would want them. But any bit that they can pull, or push rather, the hull out of the water is good. So for the moment I'm going to check how deeply these things actually get into the water. And then we'll see how much I still need to do about them. Now these have a speed slider, which means that it's indicating how fast they slide up or down. Previously, I had the system set up with a couple of push buttons, because the other track bases work slightly different. But with these things I can just use a throttle lever. And if I give them a positive value, they should be pushed down. So let's spawn it in. Get another bit of testing done. Okay, so they're already in the water. At least the bow one is. That's weird. Is the bow one not getting energy? Ah, that's it. It's not getting power, so it's sliding directly into the water. Not what I want. Let's try that again. Whoa, bouncing off the deck. Yep, now they're above water. Alright, so if I give it a positive value, they should be going down. That one is. Oh. Come on, stealth, pay attention. You also need to do that for the bow ones. This one and that one. And they are gently being lowered into the water. Bow one a little deeper than the stern one, which is fine because then it pushes the bow out a little more. And if I give it a negative value, which I cannot do, they should be raised again. So this thing should be ranging from minus 0.2 to 0.2. I think that would be enough. So now it's neutral. Now I push them into the water. Alright. And now I want them out of the water. And they're coming back up again. Perfect. So that works. Now all I need to do is fuel up the ship and see if this is actually going to be performing as well as I had hoped. The other throttles that you can see over here, these are controlling of the fins, so they still need to be hooked up to the actual fin controls up here. Let's see if they're actually all downward oriented. Yes, 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 and yes. Okay, fuel. I had this set up in creative mode, so I had immediate fuel in these tanks, which are set up to connect to 2 engines, connecting to a couple of gearboxes, a clutch, a couple of generators, and then, of course, that system that I had set up in the previous episode, where I had a prop. I'm just going to give it 1 prop to see how well that performs, and we'll just see if that's going to be enough. Now there is something else that I might need to do, and that is to add another rudder. Because keep in mind that this part of the boat might be lifted out of the water. And if it is, then I will not be able to steer. So I'm going to have an extra fin over here. If I can get it the right way around, that's 1. And that's 2. Those are, or maybe actually onto the side. Yeah, onto the side. These are additional rudders. And these additional rudders will allow me to steer while the main rudders are likely going to be out of the water. So 1 here, 1 like that. I'm going to delete that block later, it's just a placeholder. Actually, I need to do it at the underside, there. Because then I can attach it like this. And I can delete the block again. And I can remove this one. I can use the fin. And put it in like that. Okay, make sure they have power. That's going to be important. So power there, and they need to be attached to the WASD, or to the A and D controls. 1 and 2. Alright, so that should do it. Now a fuel tank. The way that I have this craft set up is so that later on I can build a sort of miniature cabin in here, because it is 175 tall. That would mean that I could have a fuel tank in the back, or in the lower parts of the ship. So let's set that up. Remove this fuel tank. And that fuel tank is being fed by this pipe over here, and its counterpart on the other side. Now I don't expect this craft to need a whole lot of fuel, so I'm not going to make a massive fuel tank. And I will try to keep it as low as I can to make sure that it doesn't influence the whether it is a top-heavy ship. The less of a top-heavy ship you build, the better for stability it's going to be. Alright, so now I should have a contained space. Not entirely, because I still need to adjust this pipe. Is that how it should be set up? Yes, it is. Okay. Now, a fluid meter. I need to know how much fluid I actually have in my tank. Doesn't really matter where it is, so long as it doesn't interfere with anything else. And over here, pretty much in the middle, I'm going to have a fluid port. And the fluid port will allow me, with the pipes, to immediately get the fuel to the engine. Let's go for another pipe. And then I turned off mirror mode. Oh, wonderful. It's because I had the fluid spawner. Or no, not the fluid spawner, the fluid meter. That's what I had set up. And I don't need 2 of those, I only need 1. So I had actually turned off mirror mode. Oh well, we'll just do it again. Port, pipe, angled pipe, done, connected. So now the engines can draw fuel. I just need to be able to put fuel in the ship. So over here there's going to be a fluid port. or a fluid connector. And then a fluid port connected to that. That should do it. And now I had mirror mode turned on, so now I have them on both sides. Good. Next up, I need to know how much fuel I'm actually carrying. I'm not sure if I have a fuel sensor over here. Dial, what do these things display? Oh, RPS. That's what I had them set up for. Now, this is very much not the late, or the final product in the sense of how it's going to look. That is absolutely not the plan. But for right now, what I needed to do is just tell me, does this concept work? Can I take this ship out? And if so, how much will it perform? Okay, I can carry 1,437 liters of fuel. So this is 1437. Alright, time for a proof of concept. Let's see how well the ship actually performs. I'm going to put a little bit of fuel in it and see how well she's going to behave. I don't need too much, and again, I'm going to be loading a save later to make sure I don't actually lose on any fuel while I'm testing this ship. So fuel really currently is not that big of a concern. Alright, spin up the engine. Give it a bit of clutch. Let's get out of the dock first. Full speed, maximum clutch. Let's see what sort of speed I can get up to. 70, 75 kph, by the way, kilometers per hour. 75. Yeah, she bobs up and down a little bit, but on average, I would say 75 to 80, somewhere in that range. Okay, now lower the fins into the water. The fins don't actually have an up or down value yet, so it doesn't matter what or that they are in the water. Although the ship does seem to be jumping up even more than it normally does. Now, deploy the fins. Bit of a down angle. Currently we're jumping from 80 to 85. And now do a bit of engine rotation. That's the lower part where I maneuver the prop in an angle. And she starts to really jump out of the water and flip back. Right, so that's not really what I was hoping for. This is because I'm pushing against the whole hull at a different angle. So I'm pushing against my center of mass from a very, very low point. Because the center of mass is pretty much where I'm pointing it right now, where the circle is. But I'm pushing against the center of mass from an off angle. So, if you were comparing it to, say, a person, I'm trying to push against somebody, not in their belly, which would be a steady point if you want to push somebody over. It just doesn't work that well. But pushing almost against somebody's shoulder. The higher the impact, the more unstable you're going to get. So yes, the ship does move at a pretty good speed, but is highly, highly unstable. I'm not even trying to turn yet. If I do make a turn, well, the hydrofoils do compensate somewhat. But this is really not what I was hoping the performance would be. And I think that very much has to do with the way that the props are set up. Because the hydrofoils themselves do seem to be working. Although the ones on the stern aren't pushing the boat out as much as I had expected. So maybe I just need to change this design and go for a standard hydrofoil instead. Something that's a little more traditional, yet that works much more reliably. So let's take it back to the workshop and try something else. It's an interesting test, an interesting design, but as I indicated in the previous episode, it might not work. And this thing, in fact, does not seem to work. So off with the hydrofoils, at least in this type of configuration. And the prop does not need all these intricate design decisions. Not anything like it. So instead, I can just go with a pipe. And I don't even need the engine setup as is. I can just go with something far simpler and have more room over here. So this is going to be a bit of a redesign. Remove the gearboxes. remove the pipe that is leading down. Because I had this whole area locked off to make sure that I wouldn't lose out on any fuel. Or water tightness, not fuel. I'm going to keep that fuel point in there, so that should do it. But I want to have the engine, and especially the gearbox, set up different. See, this is the bottom of the hull. That right there. Not this. All these blocks are only here because I had to have them in. If I didn't have all these blocks, the whole thing would have just immediately sunk because it would have taken on way too much water. So what I can do now is just have a couple of props over here. Pretty much the standard design. Doesn't need to be anything special. Alright, so the props extend to there. That means they're going to be coming through the deck right here. Like that. Yeah, let's pipe them together. T-piece like that. I don't want to be moving my battery. And that's simply out of habit, because if I'm moving my battery, I need to reconnect everything, and I really don't want to do that. Gearbox. Actually, no, the clutch should be... Oh, the clutch can fit under here. That's perfect. That should say power A, though. There. Gearbox. Looking... Oh, sorry, no, not yet. Pipes first. Pipes first. Because I also need to have a generator in here. Or rather, two of them. One there, one there. Now I can go for a gearbox. Should be pointing towards the engine, so away from the shaft. And once again, pipes. Pipe again. Put another gearbox, but this one has to be pointing the other way to make sure that I can still use those gearboxes as I want them. And here is the energy input. And I can pretty easily connect these at this point, because now I have a lot of room. Just make sure that you have mirror mode enabled. That's going to make things a little easier. Alright, a pipe here. Angle it down. Or, no, I don't even need to angle it down. Just need to add one straight pipe and one pipe angle, and it's all done. Alright, now I can make the fuel tank a little smaller. I don't need it to be this big, because I can use the section in between as well. Like that. So now I can cut it off over here. I will need to change this pipe. Because that's effectively the edge of the fuel tank. There. That should do it. I'm going to close off the whole compartment for extra water tightness in case something happens to this bow compartment, which I might be able to use, but I don't have any hatches and I don't have any doors, nor do I have any custom doors at the moment. So this is definitely more future stuff. Anyway, now for the actual hydrofoil mechanics. I'm going to raise the ship up. Yeah, I will have to change the way that the props are right now. Because I'm going to be piping these things down. The way that I want to have this set up is that the props are going to be around this low. Maybe a little less. Maybe about here. So I would have the props at this level. And then over here, I would also have another layer, but this is going to be fins. Like that. Just add one standard block and another fin. Come on. Like that. They might be too far back already. I'll just have to test. Alright, another couple of fins. This time on this edge. Also pushing down. And a couple of fins singular to make sure I can steer. Which would be nice if you have a ship. Especially a rescue craft. Alright, so these props will need to be connected. And they're going to be connected all the way up. They're going to be coming in from round about here. Let's just pipe them back first. Up, back. Okay, so this is where they... Oh, shit. They're a little too far off. Alright. I'll have to change the setup a little. Because I don't want to be interfering with this pipe. That's not really what I have in mind. Because then I have to redo that section as well. And I really don't want to. Pipes. Going up. And I'm doing this at an indentation to make sure that I can still have those blocks like this. I can still have it neatly attached to the hull. Another pipe here. And now we're going to get to the tricky bit. Because now I need to connect these. So this is where the pipes need to end up. So I'll have a piece over here. One going that way. One going that way. And the rest is straight pipes. Connected from here to there. And there. And then close this up. And I can also do the same thing here. And of course, add the fins. Otherwise, I will not be able to push this boat out of the water. Which is what I want. No, like that. And a couple of vertical, maybe even one vertical fin. It might be enough. Just the one. For steering, that is. Like that. Okay, so this is going to be the new hydrofoil, or at least the new hydrofoil design. This, everything needs to get power. All of this stuff. The new clutch, the new generators, all the new fins, the rudder, these fins up here, the fluid connector, yes, because I want to be able to manually, or to detach that at will, so by pushing a button. Clutch. Oh, sorry, that's W and S. Where's the clutch? Here's the clutch. Clutch goes to the clutch control. Throttle should be the same, because I haven't moved my engines. This throttle lever is no longer required, because I don't have it anymore. The fins are still required, and the other one is the engine rotation, which is also not required. Connect that up to here. And to there. And the rudder goes to A and W, or A and D, there. Okay, my fuel tank information is no longer accurate, and my meter has been removed. So I'll need to install a new meter. Fluid, no, not fluid level, fluid capacity to fuel. Quickly spawn it in to see how much it's going to tell me. 2000. Perfect. That's how much I can carry. So 2000 liters. Alright, change it from fuel capacity to fuel level. Spawn it in. Fuel it up. Come on. Pick it up. Connect it up. Hope I can jump high enough to get on board. There we go. Oh crap, I forgot something. I forgot the setup for the gearboxes. This one needs to be on a 1 or a -1. That's my reverse mode. Which I actually don't even think I have a button for on the ship yet. The other one is going to be a 9 to 5 or a 3 to 1. That is usually what works for this particular type of engine. And that is this one? Question mark? Yes. Alright, make sure the button has power. This is always one of the things that I tend to forget. This is cruise mode. That's when it switches to the 3 to 1, which is going to lower my RPS. Less fuel usage, less speed. Alright, let's hook it up. Wait a couple seconds, then detach it, and then take the ship out for a spin. Just to see if it works. Alright, we got 500 liters of fuel. Engines are spinning up. We have power. I don't expect miracles from this ship as is. Although, look at that, the bow's already coming out of the water. And actually the stern is too. Now, this ship is doing 110 kilometers an hour, but as you can see, it is remarkably unstable and tends to really flip over. I'm going to need to lower my throttle pretty dramatically. The problem with this design and with hydrofoils as I have built them is that they tend to become top heavy, which you are really going to notice, because if they do indeed become top heavy, they will flip over, as you have just noticed. Now, I still haven't even added the angle on the fins yet. Let's speed it up again. You can see the ship needs the speed in order to get out of the water. I might just need to make the front fin a little bigger, and same for the stern fin. Because all that the ship is riding on currently are those little fins. That is everything that the ship, whoa, is trying to use. Okay. So we sort of have proof of concept. I just need more fins. I need to be more stable. And I'm not quite sure why it's not as stable as I would like it, but I think it might be a combination of factors of both the front and the stern fins. I'm going to go with one more of these sections to get this thing a little lower, because the props were also coming out of the water. And getting an intermittent propulsion tends to make the ship unstable. Because one time you're pushing and the next time you're not. And that is fairly risky, because then the ship could suddenly get a push in the wrong direction. Okay, back to logic, or data. Fins also now affect this one and that one, and that one and that one. Now the ship itself, the hull is not too wide. However, the hydrofoils are a little wider than the hull. This is something I will have to keep in mind if I'm doing operations in shallow or narrow operations, or narrow theaters. Because in those situations it's going to be a little harder to make a move. I will need to keep that in mind, to not run aground or get stuck with one of my hydrofoils on something. In straight lines, in open water, she is probably going to be nigh unbeatable for speed. Take it out of the dock slow. Set it up for cruise first. What's my RPS? Oh, my RPS is really low. So cruise between 25 kilometers an hour. Yeah, right. We're not here to cruise, we're here for speed. Let's get a little bit of fin angle. Now the props are staying in the water a bit more, and the whole hull is out of the water. Speed, 75. 80. I can still turn, and with the additional hydrofoils, she seems a little bit more stable. She doesn't turn terribly quickly. If I were to have more of the hull in the water with more water resistance, I think she might turn a little better. But right now it does seem to be working quite well. Let's see if I can get that 100 kilometers per hour again. 80. What's my... oh, my RPS is still quite high at almost 14. 85. Not quite getting to that 100 that I had a moment ago. How's fuel usage? Oh, pretty damn fast. Oh, that's not good. I'm using too much fuel to attain this speed. Let's get a little bit more fin angle. Yeah, now we're gonna start skating. This is what I mentioned. This is when the props are gonna be coming out of the water too much. The whole ship just dances around and makes it very, very hard to control. Doing 95, 107, 110. You can see that the RPS meters are going all the way up and down. So sure enough, if you want to get somewhere in a hurry, you can. The big question is, are you going to get there? Are you in fact going to be able to make it all the way over there? And the question, or the answer to that might be, not really. Because you're going to be tipping over before you get there. Now, just for shits and giggles, let's put the fins all the way down. Now we're probably going to see the massive amount of skating that I was worried about. Yeah. Speed? None. Pretty much. Okay, so it sort of works, but she still needs a lot of maintenance. That's what I'm going to be doing in future episodes, trying to make this thing more steady. Because I do have an idea, and that includes making it more stable. Because what I could do is go for a couple of track bases. You see, now I have these fins which are sticking out of the side of the hull. If I were to have a track base over here, on both sides... No, not like that. Like this, and then a track base. And then the fin. And I know that this one's in the wrong orientation, but just to give you an idea. I could push these things out, and I could then make the ship wider and more steady. That's the plan. But that and more to come in a next episode, where I will get this hydrofoil design to work. Sooner or later. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I shall see you guys next week for another Stormworks episode.